Welcome to this first music theory lesson on pitch. To be frank, if you've got to this stage where you've got grade 5 on an instrument and you don't know the basics, I'd be rather worried. But every so often I do come across a grade 5 theory student who simply has not covered these basics and has managed to get by imitating his or her instrumental teacher. In my book, that's a little bit like trying to read Shakespeare without having learnt the alphabet first. However, if you are one of those students who finds pitch notation tricky, then you do need to watch this lesson covering the absolute basics. If not, you can probably skip this lesson and maybe lesson 2 as well and rejoin us in lesson 3. You're still here? Okay, I dare not make any assumptions, so, as in the words of that great song Doe a Deer from that famous musical The Sound of Music, let's start at the very beginning. All musical notes are named using the letters of the alphabet from A up to G, A, B, C, D, E, F and G. And middle C is the C nearest the middle of a piano keyboard. It also happens to be the lowest C you can play on violin, guitar, tenor recorder, flute, oboe, clarinet, soprano and alto saxophones, and the B-flat trumpet. But it is called middle C by all musicians owing to the self-importance of the piano and those who play it. And here it is, middle C. Okay, all instrumental music examined by Trinity, London College or the ABRSM requires you to be able to understand stave notation. A stave or staff is that group of parallel horizontal lines you ought already to be familiar with. Most instruments use just a single stave, and the majority of them will begin with that curly thing which is called a treble clef. The word clef is taken from the French and means key in the sense of a key on a map, which explains the meanings of the symbols, or a key to unlock the door. The treble clef is also known as the G clef because it looks a little bit like a fancy capital G, and when writing it, you start with your pen or pencil on the second line from the bottom, and that line is the G line, indicating the note G above middle C. Treble clefs are used to write music for all these instruments. And also these too: descant recorder, sopranino recorder, piccolo. All the saxophones, even the lowest ones, French horn, glockenspiel, xylophone, and even some of the lower sounding brass instruments such as the trombone, tenor horn, euphonium, and even the tuba when written for brass bands. So we'll look at the treble clef first. The 5 lines of a clef with the treble stave show the notes E, G, B, D and F. There are a lot of ways to remember E, G, B, D and F. Every good boy deserves fruit, or fun, or football, or favour. Every girl buys designer footwear, or the non-gendered version I will use. Every green bus drives fast. Use whichever you like, but make sure you have this learnt, as it is basic and essential. If you find it tricky, then practice this daily several times. You can do it anywhere and you do not need an instrument. Look at the palm of your right hand so that the thumb is at the top. Imagine that your fingers and thumb represent the 5 lines of the stave, and from the bottom upwards, in other words starting with your pinky, practice saying every green bus drives fast while pointing at each of the fingers, ending with your thumb. Every green bus drives fast. Every green bus drives fast. The 4 spaces between the 5 lines of the treble clef show the notes F, A, C and E. This is a happy coincidence, and it should be easy to remember that there is a face in the spaces. Again, you could practice this daily several times. Look at the palm of your right hand again so that the thumb is at the top as before. Imagine that the gaps between your fingers and thumb represent the 4 spaces of the stave, and from the bottom upwards practice saying F, A, C, E while pointing at each of those gaps. F, A, C, E. F, A, C, E. So, with these 2 facts, every green bus drives fast and face in the spaces, we can cover all these notes, from E at the bottom to F at the top. But now we need to go beyond the stave, and it's easy to work out that D comes before E at the bottom and G comes after F at the top. And before D we have C, sitting on its own little line called a ledger line. And this is that special C I mentioned earlier, middle C. It is, as I said, only really middle C if you're a keyboard player, but as I said earlier, the name has stuck and is used by all musicians. And below middle C, underneath middle C's ledger line, we have B. And it won't take a genius to work out that you can add extra ledger lines to get A, G, F and E. And in the same way, we can add ledger lines at the top to show the high A, B, C, D, E and F. For theory exams beyond grade 3, so definitely for grade 5, you need to be able to read the notes above and below the stave using up to 3 ledger lines. If you can, make sure you know all of these, but don't worry if you need to work out the ones using 3 ledger lines above or below. An awful lot of very good musicians tend to pencil in the note names in pieces they are learning when faced with loads of ledger lines. All this is covered in the printed material you can access via the website. Come back to the second lesson to learn about the bass clef. See you there.